right, yeah, whatever. If Lethem hadn't written Fortress of Solitude, my book would have been called Fortress of Solitude. That was the title I wanted so badly.
Oh, really?
That's such a great title.
That's wild.
And then, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
The thing that's also struck me about Gibson was that he, to me, it's like you said, he's always 15 minutes in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
But I always thought the way he did it was through art direction. He could take one little thing and create a world. You'd walk in a room and there'd be one thing there that he'd kind of toss off as an aside,
Yep.
and everything would, a brilliant writer and inspiration to all of us. Who else?
Who else? I mean, it's interesting to distinguish between writers that are sort of, they kind of flow into this work, and writers that you really admire. There's writers I could name who I admire, but it would be totally overreaching to say that their sort of fingerprint is anywhere in here. To be totally honest, the fingerprints that are all over this book are the YA fantasy of my youth.
Okay.
And this is everything. This is everything from Chronicles of Narnia to The Dark is Rising to the Dragonlance Chronicles by Weiss and Hickman. I mean, there's a character in this book who the narrator. I actually might have alluded to this. The character, that's right. It was at the end of the reading. He met his best friend in 6th grade because they both read the series of books, and I met my best friend in 6th grade because we both read the Dragonlance Chronicles. I saw him with the second one, in its pulpy little, crappy little, paperback form in the lunchroom, and said, "Yeah, we should probably hang out." And the sensibility of those books, everything from the quest to the band of, allies that you pick up along the way, to what I think of as some of the brightness, and I'll be totally honest, there's a bit of naivete and even just a little bit of, I hope, appealing dopiness in all those books, and I think those are in penumbra.
That's probably true of a lot of people in terms of the oldest stuff. I remember reading. I got a job one time adapting Neuromancer for comics, and trying to drop the story into comics, and it never. It didn't really get done. It was a DC thing. But anyway, I got into it, and I realized it was The Wizard of Oz. That's kind of... Stephen.
Another question for Austin. Your book was hilarious, the Soon I Will Be Invincible. And were you, like you talked about Gibson as influence, were there other humor authors that were inspirations, or have you always just been hilarious?
Honestly, I think there are two answers. I think the other big influence for that was probably Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground.
That's big humor. You
Well,
read it?
when I was writing Notes, Invincible, I was writing the most depressing book I could think of to write. I literally, and this is not actually an exaggeration, would write things and I would think to myself, this is too dark. I don't know if the world can handle my dark truth that I am setting down on the page. So naturally it turned out to be hilarious. But honestly, I mean, parts of it I found funny, but parts of it I was just like, I'm just going to write the truth, man. The truth.
Fuck 'em all.
It came out to be funnier than I had supposed. I honestly don't know what else to tell you than that. Just.
Cliff.
So, both of you guys read lots of genre, science fiction genre, fantasy genre. And
More than you should have, probably.
Yeah. No, clearly, they're both big geeks. And yet, when you decided to write, when you put pen to paper or cursor moving across screen, you wrote with that sensibility in there, alluding to books or genres, but didn't write it. You wrote a kind of a meta thing. You responded to it, but your response doesn't have that naivete. It's not direct. It's coming at it from a side angle, and you're not, doing the thing that you admired. You're talking about it and why you admire it, kind of, in your books. And was that a conscious choice, or was that just that's how it came out because that's the story you wanted to tell, or did you feel like you wanted to be more grounded in the real world than what you read, or how did that come about?
Well, Robin's going to explain.
Yeah, no, I think
Austin first.
Well, with the first book, Soon I'll Be Invincible, I really just wanted to write the superhero story I wanted to read. I honestly didn't come to it with a sense of its of being distanced or it's like I shall play upon the genre tropes that I have learned of. I honestly just wanted to write the coolest superhero adventure that I could think of to do, and and it was a toss of where to put it in a bookstore. Honestly, I went through a publisher, Pantheon, who generally had bookstores put it in the mainstream fiction section. I mean, Border shelved it in science fiction. I thought it was, but where was someone going to put that book? I don't know, and it wasn't even up to me. I don't know if I'm a genre author or not. I mean, You is kind of a book of the video games that I would love to play, but we'll never have the time to design and develop. I mean, I've been called postmodern in this room, and it's not a word I usually allow to stand. So honestly, I don't know how it came out that way, but it's
not your fault.
Well, I mean, honestly, it wasn't an attempt to sort of satire or meditate upon. It was honestly just the way it came out when I was trying to do it the correct way. It failed. You take this one.
Tonight's program, a reading followed by interviews and then a postmodern throwdown in the alley behind the Hobart. There will be blood. I think actually something that Austin said is right, which is that you, to my surprise, somewhat get to choose or sort of design the kind of book you write less than you would perhaps expect, at least perhaps less than I expected. I thought you got to just kind of, decide, but you don't. Something in your head and your heart kind of pushes you around, and actually the story of writing and revising Penumbra was actually the story of subtracting sort of some of the more fantastical elements. There are earlier drafts, way earlier drafts of this book that have real immortality. Like there are people who have been alive for 500 years, and they're all creepy and gross and it's awesome. But along the way, I realized or kind of acknowledged to myself that I don't actually believe in immortality. I don't believe that's possible. And it felt strange to write something, put it down on paper, and put it in front of other people that I didn't believe in a pretty deep way. And I've been struggling with that ever since, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't know what other kinds of books are in the future for me, but I think of something like, A Song of Ice and Fire or something, the Earthsea books that take place in these other worlds, which are obviously so fantastic. Like, to write something like that would be just like what a joy. I mean, I want there to be more books like that in the world, but what do you have to do as a writer to believe in that? To kind of look at that map and say, yeah, obviously, the wall is right there. Don't you see it? And I don't know. I'm not there yet, or I haven't learned how to do that.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is you get to imagine the book you want, but you never get to write the book you want because it has to come out of the books you've read and the books that you're writing. And it's to me it's always a process of restriction on the imaginative. You imagine this great fucking book that's